Hey guys, today I'm here with a special guest and a great guy that I know, and that is Mr. Charles Austin. He is not only been a huge inspiration for me athletically, but also as a coach. And we're going to talk a little bit about the high jump. That's because I guess you could say Charles knows a little, just a little bit about this event. It's if you don't know, right? He's the U.S. and Olympic record holder in the event. He's got a personal best of 7:10.5, which is 2:40 in meters. Indoor and outdoor world champion, and he's got a success list that probably continues like another mile long at least. And there's two interesting facts, Charles, that I love when I always look at stuff about you. You jump 22 inches over your height, which I think is awesome. And the other thing that's kind of mind blowing is that you jumped over 7.6.5, I think over 60 times, which is crazy. So I would say, for everybody who's watching this, Charles knows a little bit about the high jump, and he's been very cool to come on here and talk about the event. So Charles, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Hey, thanks for calling me. I'm happy to be here with you guys, and talk.
All right, so let's get a little background information, kind of how you got started in the event and got rolling from there.
Well, actually, the first year I ever high jumped was my 8th grade year, 7th and 8th grade year in junior high. And, like everybody, they do it and, just hanging out. And then I stopped and I didn't pick it up again until my senior year of high school. And that's after some friends of mine just kept bugging me, about coming out and hanging out. And because we were all getting ready to graduate and go our separate ways. So they were like, hey, man, just come and hang out, go to the track meets, meet girls and just hang. And after, I guess, about 3 weeks of them just bugging me, I was like, okay, I'll come out. And the funny thing, when I went out to ask the coach, he told me no. It's like, no, you can't. And I was like, all right, no problem. And he told me, it's like, your freshman year, you came out for one day and you left. And you told me you didn't want to do it. So, no, you can't. I was like, all right, no problem. So walked out of his office, and one of my good friends, Robert Blackman, he's like, hey, Snake, what did he tell you? It's like, no, he told me I can't. And he's like, let me go and talk to him. So he went in and came back out. And he was like, hey, he said if you jump 6 feet, you can be on the track team. It's like 6 feet. Okay, I was 5'3", about 70-something pounds in the 8th grade. And I jumped 5'10".
Damn.
Like, okay, now I'm 5'10.5", about 130. I think 6 feet, I can get that. So we went to the thing, set it up, out to the apron, set the bar up at 6 feet, basketball shoes and jeans, jumped right over it.
So on the team from that point on, yeah.
Right, on the team, had about 6 meets that year, ended up jumping 6'11".
Wow.
And got very few scholarship offers, believe it or not. And came to school here, signed with Texas State on a track scholarship, $450 a semester in books.
Big money there, big money.
And I just took off from there. Every year, continued to get better. The first 2 years, I wasn't focused and didn't train like I was supposed to. But I continued to improve. Freshman year, jumped 7 feet, 7'1". The next year, jumped 7'1 3/4". And that after that year, that's when I decided to, man, let me pay attention and see what I can do. And just took off from there.
Yeah, well, I would say it probably took off from the day you went out and did it your senior year. I mean, you jumped 6'11", after 6 meets. I'd say that, you got a little potential there, just a little bit. So by the time you got to the end of your college career, what'd you jump?
In my senior year of college, I jumped 7'8.5".
Okay.
1 NCs. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. At the conference meet here in San Marcos, the bar was set at the current American record, 7'10.5". Actually made it. Got my body completely over it. And as I was falling onto the mat, you know how your feet are still up in the air.
Yeah.
The bottom of my spike touched the backside of the bar. And it was really windy out. And of everybody jumping up and down, screaming, "Oh, you cleared it." And I was like, I touched it. And they were like, "No, the wind blew it off." I was like, "No, I touched the bar." It's like, no, you did not. And finally, after going back and forth, they finally believed me. I was like, no, I hit it. I was
Mm.
over it, but I touched it on the backside, so it fell. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
So, it went really good. That's when I knew that year is when I knew, okay, there's something there. If I really, go at this, there's something pretty solid,
Hmm.
and I may can do this and win at a high level. So that senior year was my real turning point in the event.
Okay. And then you realize now what I really find interesting, right? Is you went pro. You had a career that spanned 15 years
Yeah.
professionally. That's to me that's amazing in any sport that you can go that long, especially in track and field and in a sport that really there's not a lot of money to be made. So
Hmm.
going 15 years was pretty interesting. So you probably learned a lot of things over the course of that time. And when you were a senior in college and you realized, okay, there's something there. Did you know that you're like, okay, I can go at this and make some money as a professional doing this?
Well, Hollis, like I told you, Hollis
Yeah.
Conway was a big influence. He told me a lot about the event and told me about earning money and traveling and all of that. So, looking at it, based on what he told me, I didn't see making just lots of money like in these other professional sports. But what I did see is I go out, I win, get some records, I can get that name recognition,
Hmm.
and that could open some doors for me. I got graduated with my business management degree, and I felt, hey, I combine the two of those, I'd be okay. Would get me a nice little job when I had to. So once I started, competing professionally, my sights was on just winning and trying to be the best I can be and get that name recognition so other doors would be open for me in the long run.
Hmm.
I honestly didn't know how long I was going to compete, but it was like, okay, I can make some money, some decent money, having some fun, and figuring this thing out. So it was nothing where I looked at it, oh, I'm going to just be very wealthy. It was more of a means to an end,
Hmm.
you know, and that's how I looked at it. Have some fun, enjoy it, and see where it goes. And fortunately, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Um, and the reason I had asked that question, we've obviously we've spoken before, and we were talking about this because I find it really interesting when I'm talking to athletes. It's in this, it's almost opposite of what you're saying. Like you looked at it more as like, hey, let's just see where it can get me. Let's have some fun with it. It wasn't, oh, I'm gonna make a ton of cash. A lot of the kids now, I get this question all the time, like, how much money can I make? When I go pro in track, I was like, well, first of all, let's see what you can do. Second of all,
Right.
right now, there's not a lot of money in track, especially in the field events, unless you're on the top level. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, why do you think that people were focused more on that instead of kind of the way that you were? We're trying to have fun and just see where it could go.
Well, because I think kids, they want that flair.
Mm-hmm.
You look at all sports, it's about the money. It's about how much money, this person is making, how much money that person is making, the lifestyle and all of that. Me, I always looked at it. I take care of my business. That's going to come. So I don't have to worry about that. Let me just get out and have fun. I have what it takes to make it happen. So let me get out there, train hard, get focused, and get me some titles. And that the money and the fame and all that's just automatic. When you're competing at the high level, eyes are on you.
Yeah.
And people are going to see that. So I think kids today they lose focus because they are concentrating on the money side of it. How much money I can make, which is important now. Don't get me wrong, because you have to live. And I spent 15 years, like you were saying, competing, and I still had to work. after I still had to find a way to earn a living. And so kids, like I say, they need to just, what I tell my athletes, just focus on the task at hand. And that's being the best you can be. And if the financial part of it comes where you're making a great deal of money, great. But have fun with it, enjoy it, and there's more to it. Track and field is not like these other sports. You're not going to make it. Just understand, you're not going to make a ton of money doing this. It's just not going to happen unless you're a sprinter, especially in the, like you say, the field events. It's just not like that. So, they need to. I tell all of them, just let's get out, let's train hard,
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on your potential, what you're capable of doing, and see if we can meet or exceed those goals. And then we see what happens. It works. It takes the pressure off. It took the pressure off of me because I didn't care. I didn't focus on the money thing. Like I say, I felt, oh, that's gonna come. I do what I'm capable of doing. That's gonna fall in line. So let me just, see how great Charles can be.
Yeah.
Let's see what Charles can accomplish, and go from there. And like I say, just enjoy every minute of it.
Now, do you think that, that mindset, and plus the fact that you were trying to have a good time and have fun with it, was probably one of the reasons that your career lasted as long as it did?
Yeah, I think so, because there was no real pressure on me. And plus, I didn't compete that much yearly, year to year. I made, over my 15-year career, I probably averaged maybe 15, 16 meets a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was indoors and outdoors. You look at, let's say, Hollis. Hollis was competing 30 plus times a year, and that took its toll on his body.
Yeah.
Me, I was like, no, it's not that serious. I'll really train, and like I say, I want to have fun, but I want to train and try to be ready for the major meet, because I need those titles. I need that name recognition for the next half of my life to get me where I want to be. Because, like I say, track and field in my sport, it's just, that's all it was to me. I needed those to get to the finish line.
Yeah. And that's, and like I was saying before, that's just a totally different mentality. It's like you looked at it as, like you said before, a means to an end.
Right.
Right. A lot of people don't see it that way. Like they just see the next meet or the Olympics. That's where I've got. Right. So you actually kind of, in a way, had a plan, in terms of, all right, I know this isn't going to get me where I'm going, but all right, this isn't taking me all these places, but I know afterwards I'm going to be okay if I get all this stuff in.
Right.
Which I think is a great way to look at it, because you understood the fact that the sport, you said, it's not, not going to make you a ton of money. It's not going to be there forever, which is cool, because a lot of guys I found that once they're done as professionals, they're lost. Like, they don't know what to do.
Right.
And you got your, degree from college,
Mm-hmm.
which was huge, which we always talk about the kids to do. And I think that's really, really cool. And I think that's obviously, like you said, one of the reasons why you went as long as you did. And what I was curious about, as you were saying that, it's something else popped into my mind, is to be able, you didn't compete that much, right? So it was a lot of training during the time in between. When you did come up to the big meets, like you said, trying to get the titles, what was the approach that you took, kind of like mentally? Like, how did you prepare mentally to come into like a world championship or the Olympics?
Well, when I was training, when I would get out there and train, I would gauge my readiness based on how my workouts were going. If I was jumping 7.6, 7.7 in practice, which I did quite a bit, I knew once I got into the meet, okay, I'm good. I'm solid. I'm ready to go. If I can do this here consistently in practice without any serious motivation or someone pushing me, I know my training is on point. So I looked at my training as it was fun. That was my, actually, I probably had more fun in training than I did competing because, because like I say, that's how I gauged my readiness. You know, I would sit back and I would look like, man, I'm jumping really high. I'm running fast. I'm doing this here a lot easier. So when I got to a meet, it was like run my butt up there and jump over a stick, like I've been doing,
Yeah.
but now I have more incentive.
Yeah.
I have that extra motivation. So it was fun. It was a big game. That's all it was. When I would go to competition, of course, I knew Hollis, Javier, and all those guys were there, and we were all competing for the gold medal and so on and so forth. But I was like, hey, man, I put in the work, and I go out and do what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna beat those guys. I went in very confident, because especially when my training was going well and my body wasn't hurting. Being 6 feet a half inch, training and jumping, it hurts.
Yeah.
Takes a lot. It takes its toll, and so that's another reason why I didn't compete very much, because man, it beats me up. I'm not 6'5", 6'6", so when I jump, I have to apply a lot of pressure and stress on my body. So it was like, man, let me, bag up a little bit, and instead of just going to all these meets to get paid, let me just bag up. Okay, I go to enough to keep me okay to where I can pay my bills and all of that. But at least I know I'm good, for most part when these big meets come up.
Yeah.
So that's how I approached it. That's how I looked at it all.
I think one of the most fascinating things to me about this is you talked about no one to push you in terms of like motivation or anything like that. You coached yourself, right, for your whole career.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep. Yep.
How how did you find that motivation when you didn't have someone there, going through college, someone telling you what to do, and then not having that? How did you keep yourself motivated to just kind of keep going and keeping, making sure you're on the top of your game when you needed to be?
Well, like I was telling you before, when I first came to college, Coach Light, he didn't know very much about the high jump. And he was very honest with me. And he was like, but one thing I will tell you, both of us, we can study together, video, and get all the information we can get about the high jump and learn together. And so that's what we did, and it was a great situation for me. And so over the years, even after he left, I was already in the mindset that, hey, man, this is on me. I can't rely solely on a coach, to, help me get where I want to be. I have to take that initiative on myself, instead of relying on another individual. I'm the one getting out there jumping, not this person. So I have to know the event. I have to know what to do. I don't have time to be sitting there worrying if a coach is there with me. For instance, like when Coach Light left, that just blew my mind. That devastated me. I was really hurt because we were learning together. And then when he left Texas State, Southwest Texas during the time, and went to LSU, I was like, oh my God. I was hurt. I was really bummed out. And with him, that was my junior year. I had jumped 7.5 and a quarter and got second at the NCs. It's like, man, right when we were getting there, you're leaving me. And so I said I'll never put myself in that situation again. Okay. I would never let that happen again. So I just started studying video. When I would go to meets, I would really talk to Hollis, talk to Brian Brown, talk to, those guys that were ahead of me. And would absorb all of their knowledge and bring it back and apply it to my training. And then my senior year, when Coach Clayton was here, he would give me the workout, but he would leave me alone. He was like, Charles, you're already there, and I don't want to do anything to interfere. It seems like you have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing. So he would give me the workout and I would alter it, you know? I'm like, okay, this is good, but I think I need to add this here. These weight reps are okay, but it's not for me
Yeah.
based off what I know worked for me to get me to this level. And so it actually worked. He ended up jumping 7, 8 and a half, winning these NCs the next year. And once I saw that worked, it's like, okay, I'm just searching out all kinds of video, talking to as many people as I could. And so once I started competing professionally, now I'm with Schoberg, Hollis,
Yeah.
Soto. Their coaches are there. So instead of me just going to the meets, worrying about competing, I'm sitting there watching. When everybody is working out before the meets, preparing for the finals or get started, I'm looking at everyone, Carl, everyone, just watching and studying everything I saw those athletes doing. I don't care if it was a discus thrower. If he was doing something, a plyometric exercise that I thought would benefit me, hey, I'm going to take that. I'm going to store it up here.
Okay.
And I would do that, and I brought it all back, and I would try it. And I just trial and error and just kept doing that year in, year out, and was able to develop a routine that worked.
Yeah.
And so I like I say, I didn't want to have to rely on a coach or someone else to get me where I wanted to be. I knew I had what it took to do that, and I was patient and smart enough to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're touching on a lot of things that are very, you just don't hear, right? Like, well, let me ask you this: would you recommend that someone do it that way now in terms of like if they're high jumping, they're seeing some success, or do you recommend really find a coach that knows what they're doing to help you?
Well, you have to be very disciplined to do that.
Yeah, extremely.
You have to
Extremely.
understand. You have to understand what you're up against. You have to understand there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be some failure. And with me, I always looked at things from a positive point of view. Just, if something bad happens where it didn't go right, it didn't shake me. It didn't rattle me. Because it's like, okay, that's going to happen. I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. But what that's going to do, that's going to help me learn.
Yep.
So, I took more pride in learning from my failures more so than the success, because failing is what helps you to continue to build and continue to improve. Just like I have a book that I wrote. It's called Head Games, Life's Greatest Challenge. And that's all I did. I played head games with myself, to keep me motivated, to keep me going out to train, because there was days where I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to train. But I would figure out some weird thing, be it Javier and Hollis, they're going to beat you. And it's like, man, let me get up. Or I would tell myself something, like this one time I was training and I did not want to be there. And this guy in this wheelchair came out of nowhere and rolled up. And I'm, like, man, who is this guy? And I was stretching and I didn't even hear him come up, get that close to me. And he was like, oh, you're Charles Austin. I was like, yeah. And he's like, man, I'm your biggest fan, and saying all this stuff. And, I'm sitting there like, man, this guy's in a wheelchair and he's telling me how he would be happy to stand up. And I'm physically able to do just about anything I want. And I'm sitting here complaining and whining about training. Had the best training day. And so, I would just pull things like that,
And I think I think that's probably part of the reason why you had so much success, because it seems to me like your mind was in the right place. Like high jump, if you've got the ability, it's like 90% mental. You know, at
Right.
least in my opinion, from my career and things like that, I noticed. And it seems like your mindset was just it's in a very different place than what with a lot of the people that I coach and athletes, where they
Right.
get so angry that they, had a bad meet or practice didn't go well. In your case, like you were saying, right? It's all right, failure. I'm going to learn from it. It's okay. I'll just kind of move on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
So
that's in this event. I think that's what you really how you have to kind of approach this stuff.
right. Right. And with life, man,
Yeah.
it's directions you can go. You know, the way I see it. You can go, you fail, you can go this direction and use it to learn from and to
Hmm.
help you build. Just like when you train, you tear your muscles down
Yep.
and then they rebuild. So you can go that direction.
Yep.
Or you can, tear your body down and be like, man, that hurt. I don't want to do that anymore. And you stop training. One or two directions.
Right. Right.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna keep going this direction no matter what because
Yeah.
I see the goal. I see where I'm trying to get. You see what I mean?
Yep.
Do you understand me?
Yep.
So with every situation, there's one or two directions you can go. You can keep pressing on to get better, or you can get angry and quit and get mad and like I don't want to do this. This is not.
Hmm.
Me, I can't think that way. I don't think that. It's like, man, as long as I'm healthy and alive, there's a way.
Hmm.
I
Now, did
just have
you kind of keep that same mind thread going through? There's one part of your career, right? You had to have knee surgery, right? And you were hurt pretty good. Was you were just
right.
like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. This is just kind of a bump in the road, and did you keep going, or did that kind of bother you?
That was my mindset.
Yeah.
Even when all the four different doctors, two in Europe, two here in the U.S., they're like, you're done. It will be a miracle for you to jump 7 feet. And so my mindset was like, oh, it's possible.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's possible. I have a 1% chance. That's what I'm hearing coming out your mouth. And so I just went at it. You know, really got into training, learning how to run correctly, jump correctly, learn how to train more efficiently, better. And that's all I did. I don't, like I say, when little things come about, I don't stress over it. I try to figure it out.
Okay.
I can't, even though they were saying that I was done, whatever, that's your opinion. But
Yeah.
you don't have my mindset and you don't have my heart, and if I want to do something, all I can do is give it my best effort and we'll see what happens. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. I learned a lot along the way and I can use that knowledge to apply to something else.
Hmm.
So it's a win-win
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah.
And that has always been my attitude with just life in general.
And honestly, that's I believe one of the big reasons why athletically you're so successful, and obviously professionally we haven't talked about that yet, but right, you've got your own fitness training business and things, and that's going well too, and you can tell the mindset has kind of helped you all along this way to kind of get you to where you're at.
Right,
So
right.
all right, and so what I want to do, just a few more questions. I just want to shift gears before we wrap up. I know this is stuff that the kids are always asking me. Like if you ever talk to Charles or you talk to this guy, I want to know what he does for training. Like they want to know some of the drills and things. So, are there a couple drills or favorite exercises or things that you used to do that you really enjoyed that you think would help some of the kids?
Okay, well, I enjoyed all of my training, really. But let me just give you a rundown. Like Mondays, I would come out, do my 2 laps, go through my stretching routine. Then after that, I do my sprint drills, A skip, B skips, 30, 40 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, do probably about 6 30-yard sprints just to get my body going. Then after that, I would go into my workout. Mondays be more like a sprint day, working on my speed, quickness. Can consist of, series of 30s, 40s, 50s. Then after that, I will go into plyometrics, do a series of plyometrics. Then, med ball throws after that. Then after that, I'll go and hit the weight room. That would be my Mondays. And then Tuesdays will be my technique days as it got closer to competition time
Mm-hmm.
and during competition. Go up, do my same, it's very similar warm up. Then I actually go and jump you know, for maybe an hour. And I use my technique days, my jump days, also to build strength endurance. I would take a lot of jumps in practice, because my thing was, if I can continue to jump at a higher level over a period of time, once I go to a meet, I'm really strong. And even if the competition is drug out, I'm still solid. Mm-hmm. So I would jump an hour and 15 minutes, like no problem, taking series of jumps. And then after that, I would do some more body strengthening core work. And then I would hit the weight room again and do a lot of ancillary lifts, arm curls, more isolated movement. Right. Tuesday, Thursdays, be that way. Wednesdays, I come and do more longer runs, or heel work,
Now, when you say longer runs, what do you mean by longer runs?
Well, it depends. During the time of the season, I may run like 600s, if I'm in the fall. But during the season, I may give you some 150s, 100s, 200s, running. I'm talking about getting it in.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Fridays, I'll come back and do another sprint workout series similar to Monday. And then Saturdays, I'll go out and I'll jump. And I hated Saturdays because now I'm running, 300s, 200s and 150s and, with very little recovery time. And where my chest is like, oh my God, my heart is about to explode, but I had to get it in. And so that's pretty much the formula I used throughout my career. Mm-hmm. I just pretty much gave you my routine.
Okay, very interesting. I always love hearing that stuff, especially when you're a guy like you who's jumping at that level. I always like to hear what things you're doing, and I know that's, like I said, that's what people are always asking me for, when I'm talking to like guys like you. So that's pretty interesting, and got a few more questions. I'm just curious about this because you've been doing this long enough, and I'm sure you've coached people in this over the years too. What would, in your opinion, what would be the biggest mistake that you see athletes or coaches maybe making when it comes to the high jump?
I think a lot of coaches, they don't understand that everyone is not built the same and have the same physical abilities. Yes, there's a basic principle to high jump, but just like with me, I took those principles and applied them to my body and what I thought worked for me. Like you see with my technique, I had that little hop phase in it. Mm-hmm. Started off very explosive, and then I would do that hop phase. That hop phase seems to put me in a position, more upright position, and kind of bag me down a little bit to a speed I could handle and take in through my curve and convert vertical. And that's just something that just came about, and it worked. So, that's one thing. Everybody, they seem to have this one basic idea of how a high jumper should look, instead of saying, okay, let me figure out what works best for this person. This, you got to run your curve and go over backwards, but, may have to start his approach this way, or we may need to shorten his approach or lengthen his approach. Most people, you got to do a 10-step approach. No, not really. But you got to do this. You got to find what works for that individual, and that's including with training too. You got to be very aware of what works and what exercises are, putting that athlete in position to achieve, the most success that they can. So that's the one thing I know, and understand. There's, no one is right about anything. You have to be open. Yeah. A lot of coaches think this is my way and my way is right. No, not really. Listen to your athlete. Listen to your athlete and what works, what they feel works, and you work together.
And I find it interesting, like you shared what your routine was, and people are gonna watch this. They're like, "Oh, that's what Charles did. That's what I need to do now." Which,
Yeah.
not necessarily. That's what worked for you. Doesn't necessarily
Right.
mean it's gonna work
That
for somebody
it
else. And
worked for some-
every coach,
exactly.
like you said, has got a different philosophy. And coaches are they're working sometimes with groups of kids, so they kind of in my case, I have to generalize just because I got 30 kids sometimes.
Right.
But
Right.
it doesn't mean that, there's not time where I take one kid, say, listen, this isn't working for you. Let's back this down. Let's try this. So I think
Right.
that's great, you know, great advice that you're sharing with everything. And I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. Really, really interesting stuff. A lot on the mindset, which was great. It was cool for you to share what your training stuff was.
That,
So I
that's the
appreciate
key.
it. And is there any place that, people can go and learn more about you? You have Facebook, or is there a website or something people can check up on?
Yeah, yeah. I have Sohigh Sports, SOHIGH sports.com, charlesaustin.net, and those two have a lot of information, and they can even contact me if they go through those websites.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just tell you another thing, just throwing this plug in. I have this new piece of fitness equipment coming out here pretty soon, and I actually have been using it, for the past 3 weeks, because on June 21st I may go out and break the Masters record.
Nice.
It's a meet here, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my board really intensively these next 3 weeks to see what kind of shape I can get into. Because normally I just lift weights now for about 30, 40 minutes a day,
Right.
and so it's coming along. So June 21st, pay attention. I might get out and do it. I can do it already, but
Yeah.
the key is, I want to see if I could get over 7 feet again at 46 years old.
Well, people are going to wonder, you're 46. What is the current record? Like, what are you trying to break? Some people
Six,
might know. Six what?
six, 6 feet 7 inches.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, definitely keep an eye on it. I think, and I know, I've been watching a little bit. I've seen some of the videos you're throwing out there, so I know you're gonna get that. So it
Yeah,
should be fun. Make sure you get a video of it too. I'll post that and I'll
yeah,
share that
for
with
sure,
people when you do that.
for sure, man.
All right.
All
Cool.
right.
Charles, I appreciate it. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you in a
Hey,
little bit.
thanks. Okay. Talk to you later.